Indonesia, a vast and diverse country of 200 million people that covers an area greater than the whole of Europe. Of all its 17,000 islands, Sulawesi is the most magical. Isolated by deep ocean trenches, it is home to more unique species than any place on Earth. But Sulawesi is under threat.
When you're sitting in Europe in your armchair watching a natural history program and thinking I'd like to make a difference, there is a way you can make a real difference. You can come out and join a project like this one and actually help scientists, because without the volunteers this whole project wouldn't run.
Volunteers from around the world are working alongside leading scientists to help conserve the rainforests of Sulawesi, diving on the pristine coral reefs surrounding the paradise island of Hoga.
I want to be famous. I want to be the new Jacques Cousteau.
And they live with the Bajau Sea Gypsies of Sampella village. In this programme, we go out on patrol with Reef Check and find out who's ruining the reef.
It's sad, but then, like I say, it does make it all seem real.
Deep within the Wakatobi Marine National Park, Operation Wallacea's main research boat is out on a 4-day patrol. Our volunteer conservationists are on board to assist the operation in carrying out vital marine research. They've learnt to dive and are now on the lookout for whales and dolphins. Leading the mission is Sarah Curran.
There's been very few marine mammal surveys in Indonesia. There's absolutely nothing known about marine mammal distribution in the Tukumbasi Islands, certainly not in the Wakatobi Park. An important group of species, not just ecologically because they're top of the food chain, but also in terms of awareness for people about marine conservation. They're good flagship species. People like whales and dolphins are very exciting to see in the field. Certainly the volunteers have a fantastic time when we get an encounter. If we do have a sighting, we take a GPS, so we have a very accurate position of where the animals have first been spotted, and then we'll go over and investigate the group, recording species, behaviour, are they feeding, are they mating, anything that we can really observe in field conditions.
It's noon on day 2 of the patrol and the Sama Bahari is about to drop anchor.
So can those of you in team 1 start kitting up? Grab your slates, there's some slate clean at the back in the kitchen.
They're about to take part in a global survey called Reef Check.
In terms of the fieldwork for the Reef Check project, we're going out for sort of 4 or 5 day trips around the park and trying to get further the field really. And we're selecting sites, so we have sites that we visited last year, we had 20 sites, going back to those sites and resurveying the sites, and then any other sort of random sites that we come across. So basically I just look at a map and try and distribute them about the park, go over, have a quick look. If it's a site that's suitable, then we jump in. Reef Check's a global programme. It's been running since 1997. It was really a response to concerns about coral reefs worldwide, that there really wasn't any information on a sort of global scale about the status of reefs, how healthy they were, and what kind of impacts were occurring on coral reefs. So a group of biologists got together in the early 90s and designed the project which is now called Reef Check, which relies on indicator species, and it's a project that anybody can get involved in. It requires minimum training. They're looking at habitat. They have 10 categories with which to describe the habitat. It's low resolution categories such as hard coral, soft coral, dead coral. So it's things that we can teach to people quite easily, people who don't really have a background in biology. So people all over the world can join in the project. And around 300 reefs every year are surveyed in 30 to 40 countries. So probably 350 reef check teams.
The Sama Bahari reaches Tokobau Atoll, the last speck of land in the chain of islands known as the Tukumbesi. This really is the middle of nowhere.
When we're doing whale and dolphin surveys and reef check, it's obviously given us opportunity to get away from Hoga and get to more remote sites that we don't have chance to visit on a regular basis. So on one of our trips, we did go and do a reef check at one of the atolls, Tokobau Atoll, which is in the southeast of the park. And we wandered over there. There's a coral cay there to see if there was any evidence of turtle nesting sites.
But even in the middle of nowhere, you can't escape man's destructive hand.
Giant clams, really heavily exploited. There's very few giant clams around, and if there are around, they're kind of like this big, really small, but these are the sort of size they should be, but obviously not anymore because they've all been collected. That's absolutely hot. All these piles as well, these are all giant clams.
Clam flesh, or sushi, is prized throughout Asia for its taste and supposed aphrodisiac properties. It takes 30 to 40 years for a clam to grow to this kind of size. Chiseling them out from the reef can cause a lot of damage to the surrounding coral.
There's no sort of villages on this island, so I don't know whether it's fishermen coming in and, you know, they're just sort of stockpiling, just collecting them wholesale and then going out of the area. There's some sort of makeshift fishing houses around this side of the island. I don't think there's sort of permanent residents.
Seeing a site like that and then looking in and seeing there's no clams left in the water, it really makes you think, well, okay, there's a point to all this, like, you need to conserve like the coral reefs and stuff, but I don't know, I suppose that just brings home how hard it's going to be because the locals are poor here and that's the way they make their living, so you have to find strategies to like combine the two. But no, I mean, it's sad, but then like I say, it does make it all seem real. I mean, that's the whole point Operation Wallacea is out here, so.
It's the eternal problem, and one that Operation Wallacea comes across all the time. How do you balance the needs of local people, who are extremely poor with families to feed, with the protection of the environment?
What we've got to do is to demonstrate to the local community that year on year they can make more money from slowly expanding research tourism, and that money is widespread. It's not just the total amount of money, it's how many people it actually benefits. And at the moment we're actually supplying 400 people's annual income just from the operation on Hoga, and that's a big impact on the local community.
Each of the volunteers is allowed to do 2 dives per day. With up to 100 of them living on the island, that's a lot of dives. So the operation has to make sure they don't damage the very reef they're trying to protect. Julian Jensen, JJ to his friends, runs a project called Diver Damage to combat this problem.
A large percentage of the divers that are here are novice divers, and there's potential for that to have got a substantial impact on the reefs of the area. Even a single contact on a piece of coral could result in substantial damage. We need to find out how many times our divers are contacting live parts of the reef, and therefore we can get some measure of how much damage we're doing, and then find out whether sites that are heavily dived are impacted. Is the variety of coral and fish that we see there different from those sites where there isn't a great deal of diving?
Okay guys, so we're back at Buoy 2 where we were this morning. We're looking at an area which has been heavily dived, and you can see the impact of the diver numbers here underwater as soon as you get down there, particularly at 5 metres. Ready?
Yep. Helping JJ are 19-year-olds Gareth Bennell and Dilman Leach.
Just pull it to come out.
Home to over 25% of all marine life, coral reefs are among the world's most fragile and endangered ecosystems. It should be teeming with fish here, but the reef is covered in broken coral, a marine wasteland unable to support life. In recent decades, mankind has destroyed over 35 million acres of coral reefs. At this rate, 70% of them will be destroyed during our lifetime.
So if the reef goes, the reef fish go, and therefore the source of protein for a huge number of people disappears as well. The reefs are also a physical boundary to the islands in terms of preventing erosion, preventing removal of sand from the beaches, and the whole face of the coastlines here would change very substantially, very, very quickly, very detrimentally if we allowed the reefs to be destroyed and allow them to collapse completely.
Gareth is mapping the damage. It's been ruined by storms, clumsy divers, a carelessly dropped anchor and blast fishing.
You hear the bombs and when people are bomb fishing, which is very difficult to stop, and you're quite aware of that and the fact that it is a problem.
This is the result of a recent blast half a mile from Hoga. Fishermen use crude bombs to cause large explosions, killing all the fish in the surrounding area and reducing the nearby coral to rubble. In recent years, blast fishing has damaged 75% of Indonesia's reefs. And then there's the cyanide fishing.
Cyanide fishing is probably the second most destructive method of fishing in this part of the world, cause for concern beyond sort of blast fishing. It's used all over Southeast Asia, started in the Philippines and has spread and is spreading now to other parts of the world. It's a method to catch fish for the live leaf fish trade, which is concentrated in Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, places like that. Fishermen catch fish using sodium or potassium cyanide, a very toxic substance. It's basically used to stun fish. So they have a small bottle, they'll go down, snorkel down, squirt the cyanide under the coral head, the fish will come out stunned. They can then catch the fish quite easily and bring it up to the surface, and it's still alive, and that can then be shipped to various restaurants. It's a very lucrative trade, there's a lot of money involved in it. So some of the fish that are targeted, for example the Maori or Napoleon wrasse, the lips of that fish alone will go for $150, $200 because it's considered a delicacy. You're dealing with a very lucrative business, you're dealing with people in positions of power in the local community and beyond. Quite often you have incomers coming in, so people who have no feeling for the area at all, they have no connection to the area, their family aren't from the area, they're sort of relatively nomadic. They're coming in and they don't care about the reefs, they don't care that their children might not be able to fish these reefs in 50 years.
Back at the damaged Buoy 2 site, Gareth and Dilman are about to do some internal espionage. Tailing volunteers from other projects to see if they accidentally damaged the reef.
That's a big part of the draw for some people. We like to consider themselves what they call stealth divers. We've developed a number of ways of hopefully being relatively inconspicuous. We try to remain quite anonymous and follow people when they're not aware of what we're up to, so they don't modify their behaviour, and we get a true and unbiased picture of exactly what's going on in terms of the behaviour here.
You become very aware of the fact that divers do cause damage to the coral reefs and what have you, and what type of reefs they tend to cause damage to more often, and what sort of people tend to cause most damage.
Males are more likely to do damage than females, especially when the male's with a female, because they often show off and get closer, therefore bump into the coral and things.
The objective is to calculate what's known as a carrying capacity. That's the number of divers who can use a reef without causing irreparable damage. We're interested in sustainable tourism, both here and in the neighbouring areas and all around the world, really. The whole point of using a carrying capacity as a limit to the number of divers on a site is to make sure that that site can be dived sustainably, indefinitely, and that therefore the tourism, the dive tourism, which is a large part of the reason people come here, that can be sustained indefinitely as well, which is obviously to the benefit of the local community.
After the break, we meet the underwater cleaner, have a brief encounter with Gareth's flatmate,
I've never seen those pants, I never wish to see them again.
and check out the nightlife beneath the waves.
I'm sure a carp will hyper and bubbly.
6 degrees south of the equator, at the heart of the Wakatobi Marine National Park, sits the paradise island of Hoga. Our volunteer conservationists are here to help Operation Wallacea on a host of research projects. Like the curiously named Cleaner Stations project, run by Dr. Magnus Johnson.
You've got to try and find a way to sort of minimise the movement that you're making. So try and keep everything tucked in and keep your body straight.
I grew up in Shetland, son of a fisherman and oilman. I had a choice when I left school between going to university and doing something interesting or becoming a fisherman. So I chose to go to university, and I went to study marine biology. At the end of my third year, I had the opportunity to go and run a small laboratory in Jamaica, and that gave me this big sort of love of the tropics.
Be particularly careful when you're swimming across the surface here, because there's quite a few Portuguese man of war around just now, and they give you a really nasty sting.
I suppose I grew up beachcombing, walking along the shore, looking at all these snails and crabs that you find. I mean, the marine life's a huge part of Shetland culture. You know, everybody used to be a fisherman. My uncles and ancestors were whalers and fishermen and crofters. It's fantastic. You've got one of the most diverse habitats on Earth here in this area. You know, south of Sulawesi has to be one of the best areas you can go.
Dr. Johnson is particularly interested in this tiny blue and yellow fish. It's a cleaner wrasse, and it provides a valuable service to other fish by picking off and cleaning parasites and dead tissue.
Lots of fish come in, they get cleaned on the station, they come straight into the station, and they stand there and pose and they wait to get cleaned and then they go away again. Some of them pose head up, some of them pose head down, some of them lean to the side, and they look like they just want to get cleaned. Some of them change colour quite dramatically. There's a lambing surgeon which goes from very dark brown to like lightning blue. They do signal and say, you know, I want to get cleaned. Even the big barracudas. Barracuda develops these big black blotches along the top of it, and then when it stops being cleaned, it swims off and turns silver again. The cleaner wrasse actually feel the fish with their fins, with their pectoral fins. They sort of brush along the fish. You watch them, they inspect them. You know, they come over and they have a really good look. They'll get right inside the mouth of some of the bigger fish. It's a unique situation where you've got maybe 200 species of fish that all come to this one particular species of fish to get cleaned. Cleaner stations could be thought of as a sort of miner's canary for coral reefs, so I'm hoping that we can show that by observing this sort of really complex symbiosis, basically trying to use cleaner wrasse to assess the fish populations that are there and working out how it's affected by threats like the bomb fishing, cyanide fishing, overfishing generally. Using cleaner stations is a really good way to work out, before it becomes obvious in any other way, to work out that there is a problem.
They've definitely got preferences, you know, they definitely prefer one species over another, you know, some of them just, they ignore like lionfish. Lionfish are always coming through the stations, but I've never seen one cleaned yet.
The thing that makes me laugh every night is sitting down to dinner and saying, oh, fish and rice! And I've done that every night since I got here, without fail, and people still laugh.
Gareth has finished his shift on the diver damage project and returns to his hut. Because of a limited number of huts on Hoga, he's had to share with a complete stranger.
I'm living with this guy who is out most of the time, doesn't say very much. I must have spoken to him about 5 times since I've been here, so that's quite interesting, having to live with someone who doesn't wish to say very much. I tend to go to bed before he comes to bed, and I tend to get up after he's up, so I don't see that much of him. The only reason you know he's come back at night is the fact that he has an empty cup of tea in the morning, which I see when I get up. And everyone else seems to be with people who either they know from where they've been before or have got to know them since they've been here, certainly. Whereas I seem to be one of the very few who has a flatmate who just has no wish to talk to anybody. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it, but it's a bit... I think he's worn the same t-shirt ever since I've known him. So it's quite a surprise to see it off his back, in fairness. I've never seen him in those shorts. I think, thank God. But I've never seen those pants. I never wish to see them again.
It's early evening on board the operation's main patrol boat, the Sama Bahari, and the volunteers are preparing to make their first night dive.
This moment we're in Tomia. We're going to go for a night dive with Anna and Becky. We're going to go for the first time. So they're a bit nervous, but I think they will be alright.
It's something I've always wanted to do, but I've never thought I'd have the nerve to do, and so now I'm actually doing it. Yeah, it's going to be very different because I'll be seeing probably different wildlife down there, and the vision will be more stricter than even normal. But it's going to be fun because they'll take after us, so I'm looking forward to it. It's really exciting. I'm sure I can't fall hyper and bubbly.
Any questions? No? You're happy about it? Yes. Okay, let's go then. Get your weight belt, get your mask, snorkel, fins, anything, and let's go in the boat.
For Becky and the rest of the volunteers, tonight's night dive is a real treat. Much of the marine life they're about to encounter only comes out at night. And they don't come more weird and wonderful than this. At 186 square miles, the Wakatobi Marine National Park is a huge area to patrol, and the threats to the reef are many. But a dive like this helps to bring home just how extraordinary this corner of the world is, and why it needs protecting. Join the volunteer conservationists of Operation Wallacea again next time as they continue their mission of saving paradise.
Shrimp in there. You see the
yeah.